Okay, let's talk about fear. Fear is only in our minds. Its roots exist only in our minds. Fear will only arise when we detect something that can harm us, and this makes us try to avoid it. For instance, people are afraid of having no money. Why? Because they think money is crucial for them. People are afraid of not getting a job because they think a job is a must-have. There are a lot of things, and they only exist in our minds. Again, the source of fear is only in our minds. According to the teachings of Buddhism, everything is essentially neutral, or they say empty. Important or not, good or bad, the meaning is determined by our thoughts. Let's say we talk about handsomeness or a good-looking man. Actually, it doesn't depend on a person's face, but it lies in our minds. Maybe we are just following the market form concept of handsomeness. So if someone tells you that you're ugly, just change the concept. Maybe people believe the concept of a handsome man is if he is tall, muscular, or he has a certain face shape, and so on, which is just a concept that exists in people's mind. You can define your own concept and live with confidence. I saw the other day a meme in internet. It says, "No rich men are ugly," if you know what I mean. Or some people say, "Smart is the new sexy." Handsome or ugly, beautiful or not, fun or boring, important or not, including fear, everything is only in our mind. You see, rain is just water falling from the sky, but whether it becomes dangerous or not depends on the construction of your thinking on how to respond to it. A tsunami is a tsunami. It's just a natural event. People can see it as a disaster or a test from God or whatever it is. It all forms in our minds. The meaning of our life, our hopes, our fears, all of it are in our minds. That's why we need to organize our way of thinking. Some people say happiness is if you have a lot of money, a beautiful wife, an expensive car, a luxury house. Hey, it is just a concept in your mind. There are also people who define happiness as having nothing, not being attached to anything, being dependent to nothing, and living freely. Where did it come from? It came from the minds. So, fear exists only in our minds. Don't think wrongly, because it can potentially lead us to irrational fears. That's why it's important for us to organize our way of thinking and respond wisely. I want to tell you a story. I think you may have heard it before. The title of the story is Little Frog. It says that there was once a bunch of tiny frogs who arranged a running competition. The goal was to reach the top of a very high tower. A big crowd gathered around the tower to see the race and to cheer on the contestant. The race began. No one in the crowd really believed that those tiny frogs would reach the top of the tower. They shouted, "Oh, way too difficult." Some say, "They will never make it to the top. Not a chance. The tower is too high." And so on and so on. Some tiny frogs began collapsing, one by one, except for those who, in fresh tempo, were climbing higher and higher. The crowd continued to yell, "It's too difficult. No one will make it." More tiny frogs got tired and gave up, but one continued higher and higher. This one wouldn't give up, and he reached the top. Everyone wanted to know how this one frog managed such a great height. You know what? His secret? This little frog was deaf. This little frog hears nothing. Finally, he reached to the top. Compared to the other frogs, their minds are fully disturbed by outside noises. The moral story is how our thoughts influence our steps. Be smart to put things into our mind because it can determine the direction of our thinking. When people start shouting impossible, then slowly doubts begin to appear in our mind, and this is the sign that we are afraid. A lot of things suddenly pop up in our mind. We began to question, am I capable? In fact, being quote-unquote deaf can actually make us win. Today, there are people who are too busy listening to other people's comments about themselves, which actually can make their minds become chaotic. This can also create difficulties for people to distinguish between good and bad, which one is real and which one is fake, because there are too many things going into their minds. Practice to be a little bit deaf. So, back again. The key is in our minds. Manage our expectations and our fears.